guys. I'm Mr. Tony and Miss Susie and Miss Sarah, just in case, like, I'm terrible at remembering names. So I don't know if you guys are good at remembering names or not. And so I'm going to start with telling you guys a couple scenarios today. So just imagine that you're in there and you're getting ready to take a test. You're starting to take this test that maybe you didn't really study as much as you should have the night before. Maybe you didn't get very much sleep because you were up late studying, so you're not feeling like that great about it. It's not going that well. How many of that doesn't sound that good to you guys? Does that not sound good to you guys? Yeah, it's not that great, right? Now, how many of you guys get up and you're taking that test and you studied a few days in advance, you have all the information down, you got a great night's sleep, had a good breakfast, so you're doing awesome on this test and you feel great about it. How many of you guys that sounds great too? How many of you guys enjoy taking tests? No? My hand is down too. Tests are not fun for the most part, but they are really important because they're assessments of how we're doing in school. So they are a really important part of school, and when you do well on them, it makes you feel happy, right? So then you can take these great grades back to your parents, and you're like, wow, good job. So by now, I'm sure many of you guys have guessed that we're talking about test-taking skills today. Now, I do have a handout for you guys for my outline, just in case you guys want them for later, and just to help you with seeing them today. Alright. Now we'll just go right into these. So my first step for test-taking skills is preparing for the test. And this is a few days before the test. Start a few days early. Now you guys might think, well, I have plenty of time to study for the test. And I think that a lot of times too. Like the night before, you have plenty of time to study. But you'll do much better if you start a few days in advance so you can have time to soak in that information and just do your best on the test. And that way you don't have to cram the night before, you don't have to spend a ton of time the night before, because you can work on it before. Now I know everyone's busy, like how many of you guys have a lot of projects and stuff you have to do at school? It can be hard to find time, but it's good just, even like a half hour if you can, a few days before, just keep doing it day after day, just to get the material stuck in your head so you'll do really well. Also, find a good study partner. Now, this can help you out a lot. It helps me out a lot just to have someone to help you and that maybe you can test the information with. Maybe find like one of your parents, maybe a sibling, maybe even someone in your class that can help you study that will do a good job. But just make sure that you find someone in your class that will do good and will help you instead of like someone that you'll just mess around with. Because I know a lot of times if I'm studying just with like a friend, I'll go and we'll just talk a lot of the time instead of actually studying. So you have to make sure that you have someone that will study good with you. And next we have, don't just read the information. Like a lot of times, how many of you guys think like when you're studying for a test, you'll catch yourself just reading through the stuff on the test, on the page that you have to study for the test? I do that like a lot of the time, just reading it. So just try and find ways to make sure that you actually are studying the information. Like one thing that I'll do is, if you have like a definition and a term, you can like cover up the definition and read the term and try and like quiz yourself. Or you can do it the opposite way of like covering up the term and reading the definition and trying to think of the term. So basically just little things like that. And then your study partner will come in really helpful for this part, because then you can both study with each other and ask each other questions, like quiz yourself. So that'll help you out a lot with that. And then next we have preparing for the test the night and morning before the test. Now obviously you're going to be studying more as you get closer to the test. Like the night before, that should be your biggest study time, but also make sure that you get plenty of rest that night. So the first point I have into this is eat a good dinner and breakfast. You might think, well, what in the world does eating have to do with how you do on a test? But just think about it this way. If the night before you go out and you get, let's just say, a giant burger, tons of fries, some cheesecake, all kinds of awesome food, which are great, but then that next morning, you get up and you're not feeling good because you ate all of that. You feel like you're going to throw up the whole time you're taking the test. You're probably not going to do it as well as you could have if you just had a normal meal. But also on the opposite of that, let's say you didn't eat that much for dinner and maybe you skipped breakfast because you didn't have time. Well, you're going to be starving that whole test time, right? How many of you guys, if you don't eat breakfast, you get really hungry? Yeah, me too. I have to eat something because otherwise I have no energy. So your stomach might be growling that whole test time, and that's pretty distracting, isn't it? Because then you're just ready for lunchtime to happen. Now the next one I have is get enough sleep. Now it might sound kind of weird that you shouldn't stay up super late and study for tests, because then you'll just be exhausted taking the test. When you come in, you'll be falling asleep as you're doing it, maybe yawning a lot, and that can be really distracting to you and hurts your chances of getting a better grade. Now next we have, don't listen to or watch anything that will get stuck in your head. This is really like the night before and the morning before. Like, this happens to me a lot. How many of you guys have ever been taking a test and you have maybe a song stuck in your head? It can be the stupidest song ever, and you just cannot get it out of your head because, yeah, while you're taking that test, that's all you can think about. That happened to me even this past year, and I was like, this is just terrible. That hurts a lot, doesn't it? Because then you can't remember any of the information that you studied. Also, this is kind of similar, but don't have anything super fun planned for right after the test. It's basically talking about where if you have something really fun planned for right after the test, that's all you're thinking about during the test, right? Maybe you have like a big soccer game that night or a big birthday party, something really fun planned, that's all you can think about. Just, if you do have something like that, try and get it out of your mind, but try and plan things a few days after your test, so that way you're not too excited about it. Now, next we have actually taking the test. We've done all these pre-test stuff, where we've already studied for it, and we've eaten a good breakfast, we had a good night's rest, and we studied with a friend. Now we're actually taking the test. Now the first one is don't sit next to people that will distract you. Now that makes sense, doesn't it? Sometimes you don't have a choice about this, because you guys probably have assigned seats, don't you? So it's kind of hard, but if you have a choice, try and sit away from people that will distract you. Like, maybe you have a person that's like tapping their fingers the whole time, and I mean, that would drive me crazy taking a test. Or maybe that person that didn't eat breakfast, their stomach is growling, so you're sitting there like, that's annoying, right? That can get on your nerves. Or maybe someone doesn't smell the greatest, that can drive you crazy. All kinds of things like that. Just try and stay away from people that will distract you. Next, use the same pencil you always do. Now this might sound kind of weird, but if you use the same pencil you always do, think about it. You've already written out all the correct answers with that pencil before, so you can do it again, right? It's kind of like a psychological thing, but using the same pencil can help you. It's one thing that my teacher told me when I was back in elementary school and just stuck with me. Next, write down any important facts and equations. Right when you get the test, if it's like a math test and you have some equations you have to remember, just write them down right at the top so that way you'll remember them and you can go back to them. Or maybe if it's like a history test and you have some important dates you have to remember that'll help you with other ones, just write them down so that way you'll have them right there so you can just look back. Because I know it makes it a lot easier to remember things. And then next, answer the hard sections of the test. Like, the hard sections would be things like essay questions, or maybe some like short answer questions that are difficult. Right when you get the test, after you write down those equations, just skip back and find those and fill them out so you don't have to worry about them. Because that way you can just focus on the short answer questions later. Next, go through the rest of the test quickly. Now, I'm not talking about going like A, B, B, C, C, like really quickly like that. I'm talking about reading the question, looking at the answers, and if you know it right away, go ahead and write down the right answer. But if you don't know it, go ahead and put a mark next to the question that you're not sure of. Like, what I do is I'll get my pencil, and let's just say that I'm not 100% sure about this question. I'll just put a little mark right there so I'll remember to come back to it later. Or I get this one, I know it's A, that one, I think it's B, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'll just put a mark next to it, and I'll still circle it. I know it's not A, so if you know it's not an answer, you can also just cross it right out. So that way you don't have to worry about that one later. And that was my next point, is cross out answers that you're sure are wrong. If you're sure an answer is wrong, just get it out of there. Cross it out so you definitely won't come back and accidentally pick that later. Now, next, go back through and answer the hard questions. That's after you've gone through the whole thing and answered all the ones you really know. All the ones you have the marks next to, go back through and put an answer down for those. And if you're not sure, don't change your answer. Let's say for like number 3 there, I had B. Now, I'm not 100% sure it's that one. But let's say now I think it's D. But I probably should go with B, right? Because I thought of that one earlier, and I'm pretty sure it's right. Unless I'm like 100% sure it's D, just stay with the B that you have there. Now, a good guess for multiple choice questions is C. Let's say you have like no idea what the answer is. You've never even heard of this question before when you were studying. That happens to me a lot of times too. But C is a good guess for multiple choice questions, because for some reason that one's usually the right answer. Alright, make sure you've answered every question. It's basically, if you guys leave an answer blank, that's obviously going to be wrong, right? So you're not going to do the best you can do. It makes no sense. It's like, if you have a true and false question, you have a 50% chance of getting it right? So if you put true or you put false, you might get it right. You have a good chance. But if you don't put anything, it's obviously going to be wrong, so it makes no sense. It's like, why wouldn't you put something? Also, if you have time, check the questions you're not sure of. Let's say if you have time, after you've done all those other steps during the test, you have a few minutes left over, go back through and just check over the ones you had marks next to. So they'll help you out and make sure that you do the best that you can do on that. Now, after the test, leave confident that you did your best. If you've done all these different steps, you should have done really well on the test. So think about, just be confident that you did good. Also, enjoy your day and keep working hard. I normally like to take a little bit of a break after I do a test or something that day, but also keep working hard and make sure you study for all your other tests and projects and things like that. So how many of you guys have any questions or anything like that? No questions? Alright. Does anyone struggle with like a specific test taking like skill? Like for me, it would be getting stuff stuck in my head, so I wouldn't listen to the music. Or, do you guys have like an area you struggle with?
Like if it's like after a related arts, I would be hungry by eating breakfast, especially that like after.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I can eat like every 2 hours.
Wow, that's really hungry.
Trying to remember some of the stuff. When you said that you might catch yourself just reading over it, sometimes I do that. I read over it because I really don't like studying.
Right.
I read over it and then be like, oh, darn, I flip back because I love to play outside too when I read.
Oh, I got you. And then I think a study partner helps a lot with that too, because when someone asks you questions, then obviously you can't like cheat on them with yourself or anything like that. It just helps you get through them easier. Alright, well I have this little assessment thing for you guys, and I actually have some colored Sharpies you guys can use if you want to. Do you guys have a lot of tests and stuff coming up too? Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot at college, so I've been working on studying for those. And for the ones that have the yes and no, you can just either circle that or write yes or no below that. And then for number 3, it has A, B, or C. You can write A, B, or C there, or just circle it. Alright, why don't we go through these questions, and then you guys can draw some more on the pictures. Alright, so number 1, when should you start preparing for the test? Who knows what that one is? Yes. Good job, awesome. So number 2, who has the answer to that? Should you eat breakfast before your test?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good job. That was pretty easy. Alright, number 3, what is a good guess for multiple choice questions? Now remember, only put that if you have no idea what the answer is. If you know it's A, don't put C, because obviously C won't be right in that case, right? Alright, what is your favorite class? We'll go around. You want to start? Yours is science? What's yours?
Mine is reading and science.
Reading and science? Okay. What's your favorite class?
I think mine might be
Art?
all of them.
All of them? Wow, that's awesome. How about you?
Mine is science.
Science? Well, you guys like science a lot, don't you? What was your one? Math? Okay, that's probably my favorite class too, because I like math a lot.
It's hard.
Alright, so what was your guys' pictures of your favorite activities? Let me see them, and what was it? Oh wow, that's awesome. Sports and singing and dancing. What was your one?
Mine are karate and track.
Wow, that's awesome. You do karate? Oh, cool. What was your one? Math? That was your favorite activity? Emily, what was your one?
Soccer.
Soccer? Oh, cool. Let me see your picture.
It's circled.
Oh, nice. That's cool. I love soccer too.
Mine is watching SpongeBob, drawing, and listening to music.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. I mean, your drawings is really good too.